Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Happy to see you. Hopefully that everyone here in good conditions. So today we're going to discuss about another type of statistical analysis, namely Spearman correlations. So this analysis is the continuations of our previous discussions about Pearson correlations tests. So this kind of test, the Spearman test, is appropriate when data are ordinal. For example, when we have a question score, like the example that you can see on the right slide. So we have 5-point Likert scale. Then the ordinal data refers to variables that have a clear order or ranking, but the distance between values is not equal or not measurable. In other words, the number indicates positions, not precise quantity. For example, when you are discussing about very unsatisfied and unsatisfied, so maybe the range of in reality between those two things are not really equal with unsatisfied to neutral or even with neutral and satisfied. So for example, in TPI context, so you share this kind of questionnaire and the Likert scale response will be number 1 for strongly disagree, 2 for disagree, 3 for neutral, 4 for agree, 5 for strongly agree. And you're going to also discuss this variable with language proficiency level from the beginner to intermediate and advanced. So the range between beginner to intermediate maybe is not as much or as many as the range between intermediate to advanced. So the value between two things are maybe not really similar. Or even when you are talking about students ranking, for example, the first, second, and third. So when the data are ordinal, so you have to use Spearman analysis. And also this analysis is appropriate when the data are not normally distributed after being tested with a test of normality. In a previous meeting, we have discussed about how to test the normality of the data. So we applied SPSS, and in the SPSS, you can operate some steps like doing analyze, click descriptive statistic, click explore, and then insert the score to the dependent list, and then click plots, and then click normality plots with test, continue, and OK. Then how to interpret the normality test. So if the p-value is more than 0.05, so the data are normally distributed. And if the p-value is less than 0.05, so the data are not normally distributed. So it means that if the data is not normally distributed, so you have to do Spearman analysis, the things that we are discussing today. So this is an example of concrete example of research in TPI context. For example, you are discussing about whether students' motivations has relationship with writing scores. So the students' motivations, the data will be collected through sharing the questionnaire. And in the questionnaire, there are some Likert scales choices. So the data is understood as ordinal then. So because the motivation is ordinal, so the Spearman is more appropriate rather than Pearson correlations test. So if the research question is like, do students with a higher motivation tend to achieve higher writing score? So I think Spearman analysis is more appropriate to apply. So when you look at the table, for example, student A have motivations score 5, then the rank of motivation would be 1, and the writing score is 85. So the range between the score, for example, 85 to 8 and 80 to 75 are similar. However, the range of motivations between rank 1 and rank 2 may be in reality is not as absolute as the range between writing scores from A to B or B to C. So is writing score ordinal? In most research contexts, writing score are not ordinal. They are typically treated as interval data because they are numerical between 0 to 100. The differences between score are assumed to be meaningful and consistent. For example, the gap between 70 and 80 is comparable to 80 and 90. So strictly speaking, writing score is called as interval data. Motivation or Likert scale is understood as unordinal data. So now let's practice. Please open your SPSS. So I have provided set of data. So please kindly open your SPSS and type this data into your SPSS. So in motivations, we have the result of Likert scale. So we have 20 students here, but in reality, you have to collect data from at least 30 participants, or even better if you have more than 50 participants. So we also have the writing score here for 20 students from 92 to 76. Now, before we do the correlations test, as I mentioned before, that you have to do normality test. In order to apply normality test, so you have to follow this step. Go to SPSS and then do the analysis step, click analyze, go to descriptive statistic, click explore, insert the score to dependence list, and then click plots, click normality plots with test, continue, and OK. Then if you successfully follow the step, you will see the result like what you can see on screen. So in test of normality, you can see that if the participant is less than 50, so you have to look at the Shapiro-Wilk result. And the result is like this one. One variable shows that it's normal. However, for writing, the score is above 0.05. It means that the data is not normally distributed. So what should we do then after that? So you have to do Spearman correlation analysis. What should we do? First, you have to go to SPSS, then do the analysis step. So you are not going to do Pearson correlations test, that the step you have learned before, but now you're going to use Spearman correlations analysis. So click the Analyze button, click the Correlate, and go to Bivariate, and then don't forget to give a tick or check mark on Spearman points, then click OK. Then you will see the result. So from the table, we can see that there is a word non-parametric correlations. So why non-parametric correlation was conducted? Because your data was not normally distributed. So in here, you can see that motivation score has a significant above 0.05. So it means that there is no correlations. So between writing and motivation, based on this data, it's understood that the data is not normally distributed, and the result is that the two variables are not related or not correlated. So we can learn something from these kind of operations, that Spearman correlation is applied when the data are ordinal. For example, we are applying questionnaire and the questionnaire are collected by giving a kind of Likert scale, and the data is ranking, or even the data is put in a category with order. And the distance between values is unclear or unequal. For example, as I mentioned, the distance between rank 1 and rank 2 maybe is not similar with rank 2 and rank 3 because it deals with the kind of feeling or emotional things. Then the third one, the data do not meet the parametric assumptions. As I mentioned, that you have to conduct normality tests, and the result is not normally distributed. So you have to do a non-parametric analysis. And the next one, the data should be more than 30. So it's going to be better if you have more than not only 30, but also 50. That's going to be better. And the last one, you want to know the relationship between two things. Therefore, you are doing statistical analysis to find the correlations between two variables or two things. So this is the things that we learned today about the Spearman correlations test. So please keep going with the practice using the SPSS. So the more you practice to click the button or menu in SPSS, so the more you become familiar and remember on how to do every analysis with the tools. Thank you and have a nice day.